Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics on Random. Egberto Will is your host. It's been a morning. It's been an afternoon. It went from me being very concerned about how the Democrats were handling themselves on the judiciary hearing of Attorney General Barr, and then I said, what's going on? So today's show, renamed it, we tripped it, did everything around. Now it says, Democrats slam Attorney General Bill Barr for protecting Trump and selective justice. That's the title of the show today. Democrats slam Attorney General Barr for protecting Trump and selective justice. Democrats started out slow, but came on strong later. They proved that Attorney General Barr is a Trump stooge who attacks BLM and not white supremacists. Wow! Let me tell you, folks, when I started, the first video that I'm playing today, is a video where I was completely taken aback because what I saw being done on the inside of the hearing was what we are too used to seeing Democrats do. And then the young guns came about, and I'm not even done processing all the videos. Because what I did is I am condensing everything to put in an eatable form so that everybody can eventually see it in a fashion that is easily consumable. People don't have 6 hours to watch an entire hearing. So I am breaking it down into 6, 4, 3, and these different types of minutes so that people can digest it and see what they have as an attorney general that is there to serve the president, an attorney general that is there to knock the hell out of anybody that is against the president, that is against the evil done by the president, the incompetence of the president. If you're talking about that, they want you gone, and they will use the justice system to do that. And then the Democrats, and I must say, it's the young progressives that came on the attack. I'm talking about Jayapal. I'm talking about Richmond. I'm talking about all these other Democrats did come out and then said, great, now we can actually get to the truth. Now we can actually get to the evil that is that man called Barr. And when I say evil, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or otherwise, he is the embodiment of evil. He is the embodiment of all that is wrong with the current politics on the right, because he doesn't care anything about justice. He just cares about being what we must now and evidently call a fascist. So anyhow, as I said, I was very disappointed in the beginning, but and this is what I did. This is a video I did this morning because I was like, Madre mía, ¿qué está pasando ahora? Check this out. Okay, I'm watching Attorney General Barr at the judiciary hearings, and I'm going to tell you something, folks. Democrats are going to have to get on the ball, and I don't mean on the ball just going in front of cameras and talking. I mean also having prepared videos that actually put our perspective into mind. In other words, people dying by COVID death because of the incompetence of the president, that needs to be visualized. The attacks by the president goons on innocent American citizens, that has to be dramatized. The attacks on all these different, the attacks on the Senate for starving people. We need to show those lines of people starving throughout the country. In San Antonio and Houston, we have lines of people showing the dread that they're going through right now, the starvation that's occurring in America because of the president's policies. Like I've said too many times, they're not going to televise the pain of that the Americans are going through because that's just how it is. I want to show you what the Republicans have done, however, in this hearing. They have used this platform to tell their stories, and we have used words to tell our stories. Folks, it's important that we kind of get some of that Lincoln Project gravitas to get our thing out there, to get our message out there.
I want to thank you for defending law enforcement, for pointing out what a crazy idea this defund the police policy, whatever you want to call it, is, and standing up for the rule of law. And frankly, we have a video we want to show that gets right to this point. Can we play that video, please?
I'll be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking, unruly.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protesters.
Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest. Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful protesters.
On behalf of myself, my children, and the family of David Dorn, we'd like to thank friends, neighbors, co-workers, and the community for showing all the love and support we've suffered through the tragic loss of my husband, my beloved husband, David Dorn. We'd also like to thank St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department for their hard work and perseverance through this investigation, as well as Circuit Attorney's Office. He dedicated his life to the city of St. Louis, retired after 38 years of distinguishable service. Then as a chief of Moline Acres for almost 6 years. During those years, he's touched so many lives as a friend, mentor, co-worker, and guardian. His life was senselessly taken from me, from us, by an opportunist who had no regards for human life or the law. This didn't have to happen, but it must have been God's plan for David. We need to come together as a community and do better. We need to teach our young people that life is very precious. We as a family are going to be taking some time to focus our attention on healing, which is very important as we move forward. We would like David's legacy to be remembered as a loving husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, friend, colleague, and most importantly, a child of God. I'm going to thank you all for coming, and God bless you all.
That's a job! Oh, sh**!
I hope that Mr. Jordan will never complain about the length of my opening statement.
To be clear, the protest in Portland is occurring on 1 square block. You would think, based on what they're saying, is that Portland is exploding. And that is what Democrats need to expose as well. They need to do a video that says, this is the protest, and one that says, welcome to Portland. And you see the entire beautiful city of Portland, and at night you have one area of protests that's occurring because of the goons that Donald Trump sent in under the auspices of Attorney General Barr. We have to learn how to play this game, to define the narrative and not let the narrative be defined. Not let defund the police, which is a correct thing when interpreted appropriately. We need to define the narrative and not let them use a failure or turn a failure, a failed president, into a success by an imaginative narrative, by an imaginative video. We can't allow that. We cannot assume that everybody is politically active. They're tired. They see this. They believe it. We need to be telling the truth in a manner that people can absorb as well. Absolutely so. And let me tell you better, folks. Let me tell you better. This is important because again, in the morning, it started off slow because the Republicans were very, very well prepared. All of them had their script that they were going by, and the Democrats, they were all willy-nilly, each doing their own thing, not giving a cohesive message. But then the young guns came out. But before that, I want to make a few comments here because it is essential that we understand this. The country is not on fire. The country is not exploding. There are not riots occurring all over the place. There are selective protests going on throughout the country, justifiably so. They are going on around the country justifiably so. Why? Because we have state-instituted murder that has been going on in this country on people of color for decades, for centuries. Okay? That is the reason. Finally, the reason these protests now have permanence is because the entire population, or a large percentage of the moral population, a large percentage of the population, after they saw the murder of a black man in Minneapolis, suddenly all the other murders that stacked up behind those by cop, by the state murdering, all those finally hit the psyche not only of black Americans and Latino Americans and people of color who have always known this, but suddenly there were always our white brothers and sisters who knew this, right? But suddenly, the majority of our white brothers and sisters got it. They saw it. They saw reflected in the eyes of that cop who looked at the cameras and said, yes, I have the authority to murder. They looked at that, and then they looked in the mirror, and then they said, that's not me. And me, anybody who justifies these police officers and what they do, they are absolutely no different. They are absolutely as evil. They are absolutely as immoral. And the protests that we are seeing in general are from those good people of all stripes coming together and saying, we are not going to be the America of evil anymore. We are not going to be that America that kills a particular sect. And for those who are going to take it back and say, but wait a minute, what about all of that stuff that's happening with those guns, the violence that we see all day in the different areas? I say, brothers and sisters, go to Appalachia. Brothers and sisters, go everywhere, go anywhere you can actually see Go anywhere, you can actually see a social, economic group that is afflicted. You go anywhere, and you will see the same behavior. You will see the same behavior. No, Mr. Pedraza, you only see it as dramatic because more than likely you think you are of the stripe of the GOP and those folks that are on the other side, on the right. If you were in my skin, in my shoes, you would understand what this really meant. Unfortunately, maybe, my dear brother, you may have been drinking the Kool-Aid of the right, which most people on the right have no reason themselves to drink. Don't forget that. Don't forget that. And with a name like Pedraza, I hope you don't show, I don't know what you look like, but I hope you don't show your license with your name before, assuming you are a white Latino, I hope when you're stopped by the cop, you take a while before you show them your license, because as soon as they see Pedraza, tú sabes lo que van a hacer. Así que tú puedes vivir cualquier clase de vida que quieres vivir, pero tú sabes lo que te ven aquí en los Estados Unidos. Así que piensa lo que quieres, señor. Now, going back to what I really am wanting to continue with. I was very, very concerned. I was super concerned when I first saw what occurred in the morning. And then what happened? Then we had the first person to come out. The first congressperson that came out and said, you wait, brother. That is not what's going on in the streets. Let me show you. And let me be frank. Actually, I don't think the Democrats were prepared with videos, because the videos that they showed came directly off the internet. It wasn't very much set. It wasn't done as polished as the one from the Republicans, because what the Republicans had to do to make it look like America was burning is they had to selectively edit these different pieces of photographs. They had to look for all the worst things that were happening across the country, and then they put it on, and then they repeated it in a loop. In fact, I do videos every day. there's a particular part where people are throwing rocks at the cops, and it was one iteration of rock throwing. And what do you think the Republicans did? They put it in a loop. So it looked like they continuously threw rocks. They continuously threw rocks. They continuously threw rocks. That's not what was going to happen. That's not what was happening. So they selectively edited the video to go ahead and lie. Oh, Daniel Ledo, my brother, you must be looking in the mirror. Dimitri OG, you got to stick around for that Jayapal one. I made some great cuts on the Jayapal interview. You're going to see it. That is the last one that I play. Anyhow, here was the response by one of the congressmen to that video that the Republicans put out. That edited video that pretty much lied to America to tell them, America, your cities are burning. Look at Portland. Portland is not burning. One block. In fact, today I was supposed to play Bobby Rodrigo's video. He got gassed in Portland night before last. He was there on Sunday and he got gassed. He was there. He got the videos. He said, Egberto, it's less than a square block that all of this stuff is happening on. And you'll see it on TV, and the way the Republicans want to make it look is like, oh, Portland is burning and it's going to hell. No, it's the courthouse in Portland at the park. They meet at the park, and the park is in front of the courthouse, and they go to the courthouse, they protest, and then they go back to the park. That is actually what is happening. The rest of Portland, just fine. All the nice cafes and all those things in Portland, just fine. Just fine. Okay, here we go, buddy. We got now the representative who countered that crazy report by the Republicans. Here it is.
Forcefully condemned protesters this morning, but let me ask you, sir, why have you not condemned the federal officers you're sending into cities without proper training who are attempting to take away the constitutional rights of Americans peacefully protesting?
I haven't condemned protesters. Protesters are good. Demonstrations are good. They're part of the First Amendment.
So let me ask you...
What I'm condemning is people who commit crime.
Yeah, we agree. Do you think it's ever appropriate, Mr. Barr, for officers to use force against peaceful protesters? Yes or no?
Not against peaceful protesters.
So you also don't mention in your statement today or your testimony that federal officers have even tear-gassed elected representatives. County Commissioner Sharon Myron confirmed firsthand, last night I was tear-gassed by a federal occupying force. I saw throw canisters of poison without warning into a nonviolent crowd, including elders and the vulnerable. And on July 23rd, the mayor, Ted Wheeler, was tear-gassed. He called the tactics of the officers abhorrent. These are elected representatives with grave concerns that officers are using abhorrent tactics, including tear-gassing elderly, nonviolent Americans. So let me ask you, sir, do you think it's ever appropriate to use tear gas on peaceful protesters, yes or no?
The problem in these things sometimes occur because it's hard to separate people who...
Mr. Barr, my question is very specific. Do you think it is ever appropriate to use tear gas on peaceful protesters?
It is,
yes or no?
It is appropriate to use tear gas when it's indicated to disperse...
On peaceful protesters?
To disperse an unlawful assembly, and sometimes, unfortunately, peaceful protesters are affected by it.
Okay, now I'm going to show you there's video evidence as well. I'm going to ask you to look at this video. Just so you know.
This is the video that's capturing the nation's attention this weekend, shot by Tribune reporter.
That video is of Christopher David, a Navy veteran, being beaten and tear gassed by the officers. Do you think that was appropriate?
Well, I didn't see him tear gas. Seems to be gas in the area. I don't know what kind of gas it was, and I don't know whether it was directed at him.
Do you think what happened to Mr. David was appropriate, Mr. Barr?
The Inspector General is reviewing that particular incident.
Well, do you think he deserved to get pepper sprayed and beaten to the point of broken bones?
As I say, the Inspector General is going to review the incident.
So as the top law enforcement official in our country, do you think Americans who show up to peacefully protest should expect to be beaten and pepper sprayed and have their bones broken by federal officers?
Well, I don't think that what was happening immediately around the courthouse was a peaceful protest.
That's not my question, Mr. Barr.
Oh, that's where that...
My question is, do you think as the chief... Reclaiming my time, Mr. Barr, my question is, do you think, as the top law enforcement official in this country, that Americans who show up to peacefully protest should expect to be beaten, pepper sprayed, and have their bones broken by federal officials? Yes or no?
I don't think peaceful protesters should face that.
And that's correct. And isn't protecting the First Amendment freedom of Americans at least as important as protecting a building from vandalism?
I think that
we've fought for. I've not posed a question. We've fought for a democracy, for the right to speak freely, and you are attempting to take that away. And what's worse, you're doing it for the sole purpose of furthering the president's political agenda and generating footage for Trump campaign commercials. The Justice Department is responsible for protecting the constitutional rights of Americans, not to serve as the president's personal bully or political director. And speaking of protesters, it's worth remembering every suffragette, every person who marched to end child labor, every abolitionist who demanded an end to slavery was a protester. The revolutionaries who transformed us from colonists into a nation were protesters. Protesters aren't chaos. They're deeply American examples of values, a desire for this country to be at its best self. They're righteous, sometimes they're necessary. One of America's most beloved and effective protesters, John Lewis, lies in state 1,000 feet from here in a deserved place of honor. And sir, your failure to respect the role of peaceful protest in this country is a disgrace, it's un-American, and it's important to remember what these protests are about. Black Lives Matter, abuse at the hands of police by black Americans, and I want to let you see now a video that fairly represents peaceful protest that is happening all across America that you conveniently omitted from your testimony and your statement. There was a 9-minute video shown by the other side, so I expect
Not all 9,
courtesy.
only part of it.
Now that is what is real. And that is occurring in every single city, in major city in this country right now. And what they choose to concentrate on is the areas where we have, one, many infiltrators. Two, when yes, there are people who associate themselves with Antifa. And by the way, Antifa is really anti-fascist. So yeah, they are kind of wild in what they do, but they stand for anti-fascism, that which Donald Trump stands for. Anti-fascism is what Antifa stands for. So when you see people not going out and say their Antifa is not a real thing, what they're trying to say is Antifa is not an organized movement. Antifa are a bunch of folks who call themselves, we are anti-fascist and we do whatever is necessary to eliminate whatever we think is fascist. Now, they use a lot of means that most of us protesters are not going to go through because we think there are other methods and way to do it. But the mere fact that they are there, believe it or not, creates an environment where one wants to make sure that the others are taken care of. So don't let them fool you about Antifa this, Antifa that. Antifa is not organized. The white militias are organized. And you're going to see what Jayapal does, and I'm going to play the Jayapal video pretty soon. But before that, let me get a few things into context here. Because there's a lot of misrepresentation on the right. And I don't blame my brothers and sisters on the right because there is a very effective misinforming machine out there that way outpaces us. It way outpaces us because they are funded. They are funded by by very deep pockets, including the pockets of the oligarchy, including the pockets of the corporatocracy, because they cannot have the left, which supports all of you, whether right or left. That's who is supported by what we believe in. Meaning, we want to make sure that your lives are made whole. Medicare for all. Make sure that when this pandemic is all over, you are not going bankrupt. What else do we want to do? We want to make sure that your kids can go to school. Guess what? Because with all the issues going on right now, what do you think is going to happen to your ability to do all these things? So let's be very, very clear. The corporatocracy is coming out against against the things that we stand for, because they understand that when we lay the groundwork, America, which has already proven, wants what we are selling, wants what we have to offer. So those of you on the right, you don't have to quite fall on the stakes and say, oh, I am suddenly a progressive. Oh, I'm suddenly this person that I'm a lefty. You don't have to go there, but you just have to go one place with us. And that is, you support all the policies that we stand for. You support wanting to make sure you can go see your doctor without getting bankrupt. You support making sure that your kids have a good school to go to. You support ensuring that your kid can go to college if they're capable to do so. You support making sure that if you need childcare so that you can go to work, you can get it. You support all these things. And if all these things are offered to you, guess what you're going to say? Thank you so kindly. Thank you so very much. Most of you who care about your family support those things. It's kind of interesting because the Barr wanted to sort of lay down kind of laid down Cheney show. That was so embarrassing for the Democrats. Actually, no. It was so nice. It was so cool. The only reason you see it, my brother, as embarrassing is it may not have crossed what you thought it was. That's all. That's all. That's all. But we know for a fact it works. Anyhow, folks, it's interesting because when the thing started, brother John Lewis, Representative John Lewis, just died. And he is one who got his skull cracked open because all he wanted was freedom. All he wanted was what America claimed it was. Freedom for everybody. The ability to vote. The ability to do all these things. That's all Representative John Lewis wanted. And for that, he got his skull cracked. For all you folks that are always against these lefties, remember that. Lefties are the ones who made this country a better country. Lefties are the one who gave this country a soul. Lefties are the one, both Republican and Democrats alike, who gave this country the morality so that somehow it seemed to reflect some of the words within the Constitution. Don't ever forget that. All those policies that got passed, from the voting rights supported by both Democrats and Republican progressives, lefties, all those policies were supported by the lefties. Don't you guys ever forget it. Now, when Barr started, Barr wanted to make believe like, oh, he wanted to give some kudos to El Señor John Lewis, right? Well, he was put in his place rather quickly because he don't give a damn about John Lewis or what John Lewis stood for. And I want to play this for you. And then this one is a very short one. And then we'll take it on the other side.
Attorney General Barr, you started your testimony with eloquent words about the life and legacy of John Lewis, fighting systematic racism, voter intimidation, civil rights. The one thing that you have in common with your two predecessors, both Attorney General Sessions and Attorney General Whitaker, is that when you all came here and brought your top staff, you brought no black people. That, sir, is systematic racism. That is exactly what John Lewis spent his life fighting. And so I would just suggest that actions speak louder than words, and you really should keep the name of the Honorable John Lewis out of the Department of Justice's mouth.
Keep John Lewis out of the Department of Justice's mouth, because that's not what you stand for at all. The Trump administration has proven what it is. The Trump administration is an administration with no core, no values, no morals, who would use whatever forces it think is possible to win, including that of white supremacists. And, Jayapal did a wonderful thing when she really knocked El Señor Barr out of the park with her interrogation. And I want you guys to take a look at this because this is important. One of the things that I have held against Democrats for too long is they are too nice. We are all nice. In fact, sometimes I wonder, I remember going to, and I just put this one in my book too. I'm having this conversation with this Republican lady, nice white Republican lady. I imagine she thought, given where I live, that I was probably some conservative, and she kept talking, and then we started talking about policy, and I started convincing her one after the other about left-wing policies. But since it was coming out of me, somebody that she hadn't a clue was a progressive left-winger, she said, Yeah, that sounds about right. Oh, yeah. I think I agree with that. I agree with that. And, you know, all these things that I mentioned earlier in the show, she agreed with when she didn't know that I was a lefty. Okay? I started to feel guilty. So I said, ma'am, I need to tell you something. I need to tell you that I am really a left-wing Democrat. And she turned solid red and she looked me straight in the eye and she said, but you're so nice. And I'm like, ma'am, you know, don't listen to Fox News. Don't listen to all these things that are trying to indoctrinate you, because that's how most of us are. And you know what? I bet most of the people like you are that way too, because, you know, I live in a red area. Most of my friends in this particular area are Republicans, and they're all nice. If we can get over that crap that the plutocracy is trying to do to us, we can actually get real policy out. Because the truth of the matter is, the policy that most people want are the policies I support. It's that simple. The policies most people want are the policies I support. Hey, before I get to Pramila Jayapal, which is the best video of them all that I have here, I just need to remind folks that this is a progressive show that needs your support to keep moving forward. And to do that, we need you to become members of Politics Done Right. And by the way, there's an article that just came out. We got interviewed by a few weeks ago, and they did a little write-up on us here, so I'm going to post that a little bit later. I think you guys are going to like it. But anyhow, I just want to remind you guys that you can become supporters by simply going to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon if you want to become one of our Patreon subscribers, which is what we would love for you to be. You can also become a subscriber via PayPal, of course, going to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Facebook has just started giving us the opportunity to take subscription on Facebook. We just started that. You can go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And of course, you can shop at our store. What do you get at our store? And I'm putting all these links in the field here that you can go ahead and check out the links right now. And you can also visit our store at politicsdoneright.com/store, where you can get things like our great old Politics Done Right cup, and we have all kinds of other stuff, including t-shirts, all that good stuff. Anyhow, let's get back to the program. Folks, this is important. This is very important. I want you to listen to Pramila Jayapal. What she has to say really knocked it out of the park. Here we go, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Forcefully condemned protesters this morning. But let me ask you, why have you not condemned the federal office?
Here we go.
Mr. Barr, on June 1st, there were protests against the murder of George Floyd and police brutality in Lafayette Park. Let us not be distracted by you or my GOP colleagues as to what these powerful and massive protests were actually about. They were about the persistent killing of Black bodies by law enforcement, and finally, an awakening in America of the conscience of our country. And yet your response, Mr. Barr, was to direct federal officers to close in on the protesters and to use shields offensively as weapons, tear gas, pepper balls, irritants, explosive devices, batons, and horses to clear the area just so the president could get a photo op. So I do want to ask you, do you think the response at Lafayette Square to tear gas, pepper spray, and beat protesters and injure American citizens who were just simply exercising their First Amendment rights was appropriate?
Well, first, it's my understanding that no tear gas was used on Monday, June 1st.
Mr. Barr, that is a semantic distinction that has been proven false by many fact checkers.
How is it semantic?
Do you think?
How is it semantic? Tear gas is a particular compound.
You talked about chemical irritants, and it has been proven false by reports. So just answer the question. Do you think that it was appropriate at Lafayette Park to pepper spray, tear gas, and beat protesters and injure American citizens?
Well, I don't accept your characterization of what happened, but as I explained, the effort there was...
Mr. Barr, I just
effort
asked for
there
a
was
yes
to
or no, so let me just tell you, I'm starting to lose my temper. According to sworn testimony before the House Natural Resources Committee by Army National Guard officer Adam DeMarco, who was there, this was, quote, an unprovoked escalation and excessive use of force against peaceful protesters.
Well, I don't
Numerous
remember,
media
I don't remember
reports
DeMarco as being...
Mr. Barr, excuse me, this is my time. Sir, the president told governors on a telephone call that the way to deal with the protesters of police brutality and systemic racism like in Lafayette Square is that, quote, you have to get much tougher. You have to dominate. If you don't dominate, you're wasting your time. These are terrorists. And he also talked about you on that call, sir. Here's what he said. He said, the Attorney General is here, Bill Barr, and we will activate Bill Barr and activate him strongly. Do you remember that call, Mr. Barr?
Yes, I do, but he wasn't talking about protesters. He was talking
Mr.
about
Barr,
rioters.
apparently the president believes that you can be activated to implement the president's agenda and dominate American people exercising First Amendment rights if they're protesting against him. But let's look at how you respond when the protesters are supporters of the president. On two separate occasions, after President Trump tweeted, "Liberate Michigan," to subvert stay-home orders to protect the public health of people in Michigan, protesters swarmed the Michigan Capitol carrying guns, some with swastikas, Confederate flags, and one even with a dark-haired doll with a noose around its neck. Are you aware that these protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded?
No,
You're not aware of that?
I was not aware of it.
Major protests in Michigan. You're the Attorney General, and you didn't know that the protesters called for the governor to be lynched, shot, and beheaded. So obviously you couldn't be concerned about that.
Well, there are a lot of protests around the United States, and on June
Attorney
1st,
General Barr,
I was worried about the District of Columbia, which is
protests
federal.
in certain parts of the country. You're very aware of those, but when protesters with guns and swastikas and
I am
Confederate
aware of
flags, excuse me,
protesters
Mr.
in the
Barr,
federal
this is my
government.
time and I control it. You are aware of certain kinds of protesters, but in Michigan, when protesters carry guns and Confederate flags and swastikas and call for the governor of Michigan to be beheaded and shot and lynched, somehow you're not aware of that. Somehow you didn't know about it, so you didn't send federal agents in to do to the president's supporters what you did to the president's protesters. In fact, you didn't put pepper balls on those protesters. So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest systemic racism and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs, because they are considered terrorists by the president. You take an aggressive approach to Black Lives Matter protests, but not to right-wing extremists threatening to lynch a governor if it's for the president's benefit. Did I get it right, Mr. Barr?
I have responsibility for the federal government, and the White House is the seat of the executive
Mr. Barr, let me just
branch,
make it clear.
not
You
for
are
the-
supposed to
the Michigan
represent
authorities
the
can
people
handle-
of the United
Michigan
States
authorities
of
can
America,
handle-
not violate people's First Amendment rights. You are supposed to uphold democracy and secure equal justice under the law, not violently dismantle certain protesters based on the president's personal agenda.
Now that is what's important. And let me tell you why I love the new folks out here. Why do I love the squad? Meaning Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, and Jayapal, and all these others. Because finally, we have people that come on and say, I am taking no hell anymore. To hell with all of this. oh, Mr. Barr, and we are not going to confront you as you should. No, these guys are evil. These guys are evil. They hurt people. They hurt thousands, millions of people. And they usually just take a pass because people think it is okay. By the way, Dimitri OG, thank you so kindly for that super chat. Folks, if you are on YouTube and you want to help this program, you can also, I forgot to say that when I was telling you that you could, how to become a member of the member of the show. Anybody, go ahead and give us a super chat. You automatically are a Politics Done Right member, Politics Done Right subscriber. Thank you so kindly for that, Dimitri OG. And Dimitri OG said, sigan con el buen trabajo, hermano, which says, please keep doing the great work, my brother. Hey, the good work, my brother. Hey, look, Dimitri, this is my going forward in life. We have got to create a better country. We have got to create where people get along. You notice I have all my right-wingers in here as well, and I love them too. And they know it's true. They know it comes from el corazón. Why? Because for what I preach is what I know. I know that this country, that the people that are running this country are here to mislead, and it's easy. It is so easy to mislead people all over the place, and that is what they're doing. So Mike Cisak is completely misled. Daniel Ledo, completely misled. But it's okay, because you know what? The fact that they're here means that we all have the ability to plant seeds in their minds. We have the ability to plant seeds in their mind. Yes, fire service. Whoever said that you were wrong with that statement? Democrat, Republican government system is fake and oligarchy controls the world. Mr. Fire Service, I am going to give you, even though I don't exactly know where what your modal is, I'm going to give you the statement of the day because you get it. But the thing about it is within the Democratic Party lives a progressive movement. And the progressive movement is not the oligarchy. The progressive movement is not the plutocracy. The progressive movement is not the wealthy. You see? So you ought to be a part of the progressive movement and work in whatever manner necessary for us to make sure that all Americans are made whole. Are you with me, Fire Service? You are coming in to us from Twitter, from Periscope. Fire Service, respond to me, my brother. Respond to me, my brother. I'm assuming Fire Service is a brother or a sister. So respond to me, Fire Service. Are you with the program, Fire Service? Are you with the program? Okay, let me go ahead and start reading the notes, but let me first bring everybody in. By the way, you can give me a call if you want to, 346-248-7799. Again, that is 346-248-7799. And the code is 254-600-9091. 254-600-9091. Welcome aboard, Michael Rudnin. Welcome aboard, AVQ. Dimitri OG. Dimitri is the one who just gave us a super chat. Thank you so kindly, Dimitri. Mike Cisak, one of our resident right-wingers. Welcome aboard, brother Mike Cisak. Todd Anthony says, to Michael, it is what it is. Candidates are always a, what you call it, sandwich. Eat it or starve. The real question is which of the parties turns a deaf ear to election and electoral reform? Which party paved the way for Citizens United? They both may be, but only one of them gives any hope of change. You're absolutely right. Breaking news, Egberto Willis. This is from Daniel Ledo. Welcome aboard, Daniel. Egberto Willis celebrates partisan political witch hunts. Okay, Daniel, I see how you feel about me, my brother. Still love you, though. And we have Mike Cisak. Todd, CU was the correct ruling. In Citizens United was not the correct ruling, Mr. Mike Cisak. And you should know that if you, and better if you're a conservative, you should really have thought that Citizens United is correct. But conservatives are selectively conservative. That's how it really works. Dimitri OG says, Barr claimed to know about the WS storm with Michigan Capitol with guns, Nazi and Confederate flags after Trump tweeted out, liberate Michigan. Sure he did. You know, we know what the truth is, Dimitri. They never approach the right-wingers. They never approach the white supremacists. They can go around with guns. Remember that guy in Arizona? They went ahead and they took over acres of land. They took it over with machine guns and AK-47s, and the government didn't touch them. The government didn't shoot at them. The government didn't do any of that. For days, for months, they held this place up. Same thing they did in Portland, right? Not in Portland, in Oregon. They held up a federal place. They didn't do anything. You didn't see gunshots flying and all of that. You didn't see that. Because they were white supremacists. So, I mean, we have clear evidence who the government attacks. The government attacks people of color and their allies. So and that's why I give so much umbrance to our white brothers and sisters who have become allies to the BLM movement and all the other progressive movements, because a lot of these movements, they are what we call that shield, because they have to think twice when they're going to hit on those other bodies. And it's been proven. You know, it's amazing. We closed down the freeway in Missouri, in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was funny because our white allies, when we were all marching up on the bridge to close the freeway down, we get the freeway shut down. Here comes all the police officers. I'm coming to you now, telephone. Here comes all the police officers. As the police officers come, we get the white chain that comes in the front of the BLM march. And suddenly, the police officers take it back. Folks, this is your America. Okay, let's go to 727. Come on in, 727. You are hot.
Hey, ¿cómo está, Alberto? This is Dimitri from Florida.
Dimitri, how are you doing, my brother? Thank you for that super chat.
No problem. My pleasure. I just wanted to say a few things. I mean, our civil liberties, our rights have been violated for the longest time. And I think in this age of technology, it's just being... the masses are actually starting to see that it's happening to everyone. I mean, from mothers to vets to protesters of all stripes being attacked. Not to make this about me, but I'm going to tell you a personal experience really quick. A few months ago, I was unlawfully detained and illegally arrested. And when it came time to go to court, the charges were dropped. I hired a good attorney. We FOIA'd Freedom of Information Act, got the cops' dash cam, and I have a lawsuit against them because what they did to me was unconstitutional. They violated my rights.
Let me tell you something. Thank you for that story, Dimitri, and it's so important that people get that. But you said something that is of most importance, brother. When you said, you remember, I don't remember the phrase exactly. I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, right? It says, they came for the women, and we said nothing. They came for the black people, we said nothing. They came for the indigenous people, and we said nothing. And they finally came for us. And by the time they came for us, there was nobody there to say anything. There was nobody there to save us. We as a society have to stay together. And that's why, if you notice, Dimitri, all my Ledos and my CSACs and all the conservatives in here, I don't hold a lot of folks send me stuff offline and say, get them to hell out of your room, get them to hell off. And I'm like, no, I love these folks too, because they are eventually going to realize that which you just said, brother. And what you just said is, they are coming for all of us, because it's a plutocracy in an economic system that cannot sustain itself. It must eat its own until it eventually falls apart. Go ahead, brother.
And my closing is, now that whenever I go out, I videotape any interaction, and I also videotape any police interactions with other citizens to make sure their rights aren't violated. And I suggest that people do that to make sure your civil liberties are not denied.
Words of wisdom. Folks, listen to what Dimitri OG just said, because he's right. We have to all be our brothers' keepers, our brothers and sisters' keepers. Old phrase, we have to get away from that machismo stuff. It's that old phrase now. It's, we have to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. Thank you so kindly, Dimitri. Anything else you want to add before you go?
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, brother. All right, folks, listen, let me tell you, we have about 8 more minutes to go. Look, I forgot. Let me keep reading these things now. I didn't salute everybody yet. I think Mike Cisak, I got you. Brige, my favorite Brige MCP, welcome aboard. I got to Lee Grant. Hey, you know what, Lee? You're a conservative too, but I don't think you're a right-winger. I think you're just if I remember correctly, Lee, you're just a straight conservative, not a right-winger. Am I correct? Let me know if I'm right or wrong. Fire Service, I wanted to hear back from you, Fire Service, because what you said makes a lot of sense. So I hope you're still here, Fire Service. Let's see. Para ver, ¿quién más está aquí? Let's see. Daniel says, eventually you, Egberto, will realize that to get us to go along with your progressive hell, you're going to have to kill us. No, we won't. You will kill yourself. Because if you continue on your path, you will kill yourself. It's what, if you notice a couple shows ago, my show was called National Suicide. In other words, you either come our way or you are committing national suicide. And that it takes so many, it is so difficult for so many to see it, but eventually they will. Eventually you will, Mr. Ledo. So, stick around, hang with me, Ledo. Keep hanging with me. You'll get the point. Let's see. Lee Grant says, leftists won't make a distinction between protesting and criminal violence. This is the same sort of fuzzy thinking that leads to their confusion over male and female. No. And Lee Grant, I can see that you have a problem with trans. And Lee, we have to understand science. Please learn the science of sexuality and gender before you make those statements, because it makes you look pretty pretty behind when you follow the tenets of poor thinking, of uneducated thinking. I love you, brother, but Lee, read about gender and what creates gender and the chemicals. Read about gender, and you'll have a completely different take about gender identity and all these different issues. It's important. It's important. Remember, you're going to have kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, and trust me, you want everybody having a good life. Mike Cisak says, Brige, I am a truth talker who posts facts. Well, I wish that were the case, Daniel. You post facts as, pretty much you post facts as pointed out by Fox News, which is generally BS, but it's okay. All right, let's see who else I need to bring up. Oh, here goes Egberto pushing the non-science about actual sex and gender. No, it's actually provable science, brother. Check it out. Let's see what else is there. Let's see who else do I need to answer to before I continue. Para ver. If I missed you, forgive me. AVQ, I got that. Okay, I think I just saw some more messages come in. Fall. I like the word fall. Love the word fall. Rudnan says, I think CSAC is a OAN. Yeah, what does ON stand for again? I know it, but I can't remember it right now. Remind me. Tank 28 says Trump 2020. Aren't you going to be disappointed on November 3rd, brother Tank? I'm sorry. But don't worry, you'll always have a home, because unlike the other side, we always have our doors wide open for you, Mr. Trump 2020. Daniel Ledo said, God, please spare my grandkids from the false gender theory. Oh, Tank says, nah. All right, Tank, that's all right, brother. Still love you, man. Still love you. Oh, One American News Network. Yeah, the new one that Trump does. Anyhow, folks, we're coming close to the end of the program. And what I want to tell you is, all of you, I want to thank you so kindly for being here. I know you can be anywhere. I genuinely know that. The fact that I have my new conservative Tank 28, I hope Tank, hey Tank, I want you to share my stuff, and I want you to bring some more conservatives on board. Okay, brother? I'm counting on you, Tank 28. Majestic Fluffy Butts. Man, I'm scared to ask you, where the hell did that name come from? The animus subconscious Jungian archetypes help explain transsexuality. I must admit, Majestic Fluffy Butts, I have no clue what you just said there. I wish I could understand what you said, but I have no clue. Brige MCP says, I'm originally from Northern Ireland, Belfast, Catholic, now in New York, and a citizen. I know too well propaganda and martial law. Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Brige. Anyhow, folks, I want to invite you once again, for all the newcomers, to become patrons. Please support the program. How do you support the program? Please go ahead and join us at politicsdoneright.com/patrons. Patreon, Patreon. I also have to repeat this because we also have the people that listen on podcasts and the people that listen only on radio. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Please become a member. If you're on YouTube, you can just click on the $ on YouTube and say, I want to be a supporter by giving you a super chat. So you can do what Dimitri did by giving us a super chat. You can also support us via PayPal. How do you support us via PayPal? Go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Facebook just started allowing us to accept subscriptions on their platform. So go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook, politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And of course, you can shop at our store. How do you shop at our store? Go to our store at, how do we get to, hey, Troy Astro, I didn't give you a proper welcome. I think this is the first time you're showing yourself, Troy. Welcome aboard, Troy Astro. Anyway, you can go to our store at politicsdoneright.com/store, where you can get things like our cup. You can get things like our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Because, folks, you want to learn all this stuff about how the plutocracy gets to us, how the economy works, all of that. It's all specified in that book, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Well, I wrote that one because I had a weight problem, solve it. Bridge, I'm sorry, I was a college professor now. And look, let me tell you something. Your support is being right here, Bridge, as well. Please share. Be a part of this system where we all make a difference. You know why? Because we all can make a difference. And you being here makes a difference. And so, folks, I thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right. I thank you so kindly for listening. I thank you so kindly for participating. And please return mañana. Come back tomorrow. We will have another topic. Actually, the topic today was supposed to discuss how progressives should start being more, I forgot the word that Tim, I was going to use my brother Tim, who said we have to get smarter with our protests, which I agree with. We'll probably tackle some of that mañana. But for now, my name is Egberto Willis, folks. This is Politics Done Right. There on the screen is the store, and you can see that cup with the squad and the T-shirts, all of that. Thank you for being a part of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And guess how I end this, baby? I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willis, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.